Welcome everyone to Easy Code Is, where you the users can determine what features I will be implementing next. If there's something you would like to learn about when coding up a website, leave a comment down below, and I just might make a video about it. Today we are going to be learning how to update a user's account information using PHP, MySQL, HTML, CSS, and jQuery. We need the front end, we need the back end, we need it all. And by the end of this video, we are going to have a My Account link in our footer. When the user clicks on it, they are taken to their My Account page, where they can update their email address, their first name, their last name, and if they want to change their password, they can also do that. I'm going to update my email, my first name, my last name, get my password as well. Hit update, email, first name, last name, and password have been changed. If I go back home, now I'm logged in as tester. I am no longer test. The first thing we want to code is our My Account link in the footer on our home page. We're going to open up our index.php file and scroll down to the bottom where our footer is located. Inside of our ifIsLoggedIn function, we're going to place our My Account link. We have created our link to our myaccount.php page. If we refresh our home page, scroll to the bottom, we have our My Account link right above our logout link. We're going to click on it, and it's going to take us to a page not found because we have not created it yet. To create our myaccount.php file, we are simply going to copy our signup.php file and rename it My Account, and then open it up. The first thing we do is we include our functions.php because we will be using PHP functions to update our My Account. We can remove the login redirect because we want the users that are logged in to actually see this page. Update the title to My Account. Keep the global styles here, and we're going to create a myaccount.css file. We're going to do the same thing for our CSS file. We're going to copy our signup CSS file and rename it My Account. That way we have styles specific to our My Account page. We're going to include jQuery, we're going to include our loading overlay, and I'm going to comment this out for now. That reminds me that I need to come back to it later, because the first thing we are going to do is start out by updating the HTML, the form that the user is going to be updating their account with. Let's change this to My Account. I'm going to change sign up form to My Account form, and then we're going to update some of the input fields in this form. We need to display the values in these input fields, and we do that by just adding a value attribute to each of the input fields. And we're going to use PHP to echo out the session variable for each of these, because our user info, once the user has logged in, is stored in the session. And the passwords will not be filled in because we don't want to give those away. Looks like in our session variable, the user info is actually in a user info array. So we just need to make sure we're accessing the correct array to get our information. Email, first name, and last name. Now for our change password section, we want the user to be able to toggle the option for changing password or not. Maybe they're going to only update their email, first name, and last name, and they're not going to change their password. So we want to have a little checkbox letting us know that the user they actually want to change their password and not just their email, first name, or last name. To do this, we're going to copy one of our sections here, and we're only going to use the section label part for this. So we created a checkbox here with a label that's going, if you click on the label or the checkbox, it'll check it and it will uncheck it. Lastly, we need to wrap our password and confirm password in a div so we can show and hide them depending on if the user has clicked on the change password. So we give our password and confirm password a div to live in, and we're going to set it to display none on page load, and the checkbox will be unchecked on page load. Now inside of our onload function, when the page loads, we have to add some JavaScript here in order to handle our change password checkbox click. Alright, so if our change password section is visible, then we're going to hide it. If it is not visible, we're going to show it. And this happens when the user clicks on our change password checkbox. Our form has been completed. We have our email here, echoing out our session variable for the email, displaying the user's email in the input field, their first name in the first name input field, and their last name in the last name input field. We have added a checkbox here. If you click it, it will show this change password section. If you unclick it, it will hide this section. If we go back to our home page and we click on the My Account link, it will now take us to our My Account page, now that it exists. We have our email, our first name, last name, and we can toggle the change password. Now we just need to fix the bottom section because we're not signing up and we need to remove the already a member part as well. Don't need that already a member part, and we're going to change this to say update. Change the ID to update button, and now our form looks more like a update form and not a sign up form. Now we need to code up the onClick for our update button. When the user clicks it, we want to send off an AJAX call to the server with the information and update our account. We're going to change our sign up button here from what we copied over to update button. OnClick for the update button is going to process my account. Same for the onKeyUp for our form inputs. On these form inputs, if we press enter, it will submit the form and call our process my account function. Let's convert our process sign up to a process my account function. Process my account, we clear the error message out, we show the loader. We're going to do process my account, and we're going to send along the my account form. This is the ID we gave our form down here. It's going to send along all the input fields right here to the data function, because the jQuery serialize function serializes all of the input fields in the my account form. If all goes well and we update successfully, we want to reload the page. If it does not go well, we want to display the error message and hide our loader. We're to our folder inside of the PHP folder. And we're going to copy our process signup, and we're going to name it process my account. And we're going to open it up. The AJAX call right here will be sending the data to this PHP file we just created. Process my account. We're going to keep our functions file because we will be referencing functions inside of there in the next line. Create a bunch of space between all the sign up stuff we copied because we might be using some of it later. So the first thing we want to do is get the user's info, the user who is actually logged in, and we're going to do that by getting their info with the key value from the session. So we have our getRowWithValue function, which does not yet exist in our functions file. So we're going to open up our functions file, and we're going to add that function. This is going to be a generic function that we can use to get a row from any table we want with a key and a value. It's going to be similar to this function, get user with email address, but it's going to be more abstracted. So you pass in the table name you're looking at, the column in the table name that you want to get by the value of that row. For this instance, we're referencing the user's table, the key value column, and this is the key value that we want to get. We're going to open up our database connection, and then we're going to do a select statement, just like the email, but we're going to put the variables in here. So our select statement is saying select star from the table name we passed in, where column equals, and then this is our column variable, which will be filled in our execute statement. So we copy that, and instead of our email here, we're going to put our variable column, and we're going to trim our value. In this example here, our key value is our column, and our value is the user that is logged in, their key value. So we're looking for a user from the users table where the key value column is equal to the key value passed in. And we just copy this return, and we return the user that we have found. Next, we also want to get the user info with email, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So the first thing we're going to do is check the email address. That is the first thing in the form, and we're going to do the same check as we did on the sign-up form. If it's not a valid email address, you're going to get an error. The next check we're going to do is check if they're updating the email address. This check is saying if we found user info with the email from the form, we know that email address has already been registered to another user. But we also have to put the check on here to make sure that it's a different email from their current email address. Otherwise, every time we submit the form, a user would always be found with that email address. In this case, they also get a status of fail with an invalid email address. Next, we're going to copy our check for the first and last name. If those are empty, they need to be prompted to input their first and last name. The next check is on the password. We can copy this from our sign up and paste it up here. So this is saying if password is empty, or password does not equal confirm password, or the string length of the password is less than 8 characters, we're going to give them an invalid password message. The only other thing we need to add to this check is a check for the change password checkbox. If the change password checkbox array key exists in the post, that means the user has that checkbox selected, meaning the user wants to change their password. In this case, do our password check for matching and for length. If it's not set, then we don't even do any of this. And we can continue to our else, where everything is good, and get a message of valid status OK. In the case where everything has passed, we want to update the user info and update the session info. That way, anytime we reference the session variable, like in the input fields on our My Account Update form, we will see our new updated email, first name and last name. If we don't update the session, it will still show our old first name, last name, and email. So we're going to create a function called update user info, and we're going to pass along our post info. It's all been validated, it is all good. So we can set up our function where we update the user's info in the database. Once that has been set up, we can then write our SQL statement, which is going to be an update statement. We're going to update our users table, and we're going to set fields where key value equals info key value. So here we're setting the email to the email, first name to first name, last name to last name. These are the fields that we are updating wherever the key value is equal to the user's key value coming from our info array, which has not been set because it's not passed along with the post. So right here we're going to say post key value equals user info key value. Now we have our key value that can be passed along to our update user info function. Now we have to decide if we want to update the password or not. And to do that, we're going to use our isSet function just like we used right here. So we're saying if our info change password is set, that means they have checked the change password checkbox, and we need to append on our password variable. If it is not set, that means the checkbox has not been checked, and we're not updating the password, so we're going to leave it blank. Now that our statement has been set up, we can set up our params. The params array has been set for email, first name, and last name. Now we need to, again, check for the change password checkbox. If it has been set, we need to add on our password to the params. If it hasn't, we don't. So if the checkbox has been checked by the user, we know they're updating their password. So we're going to append on the password to the params array. After we append on the password, we can append on our key value. And in both cases, we always append on the key value because that always exists. That is our where statement. That is the user that we are updating this info for. After that, all we have to call is our execute statement and pass in our params. Now that we have updated our user, we can update the session. So right after we call the update user info function, we're going to get the user info again. This will get us our user info, but this time it'll get us the updated user info. And once we have our user info, we can update the session. This line right here is updating the session user info to the most recent info we have for the user because they just updated their info. Now we can remove all of this sign up PHP from when we copied it over and just return our JSON encoded array with our status and our message. That is our process underscore my account. We first check for our email, make sure it's a valid email address. Else if user is trying to update their email address, we're going to check if it's a valid email address and it is not already registered to another user. Then we do our first name and last name check, make sure they got something entered there. And our last check is our change password check, where we check first to see if the checkbox has been checked. A lot of checking. If it has been checked, then we need to go ahead and check the passwords. Do they match? Are they long enough? If they are, we're all good. We update the user info with the info from the form. We get that info from the database. And we update the user's info in the session with their most recent email, first name, and last name. This way, wherever we echo out the session user info variables, we'll have the most recent data. We return that to Ajax. The key function here is our update user info function, which we have created in the functions.php file. Recapping really quickly, we create our database connection, we set up our statement, we are going to update our users table, we're going to set the email, first name, last name, maybe the password, and our key value. Oops, but we do not put our actual variables inside of our statement. That gets added in the params array. We put placeholders here for all of our variables until we execute it. That way we don't get injected by MySQL injection. So then we set up our params array, we set the email where we actually pass the values from our info. And if they're changing their password, we add on the password, and then we add on the key value no matter what. Finally, we execute the update statement, and if all goes well, our user's account has been updated successfully. Let's hop over to our My Account page, clear our console, and let's see what happens if we click Update. Something definitely went wrong. Let's check out the response tab. We have an invalid parameter number. What did we pass along? Email, test, user, password, confirm password. Invalid parameter number. So our error means that we're passing along too many parameters. The parameters we're passing along are not the same length as what's in our statement. That was a PHP error we got. So let's see, we got 3 for email first name, last name, email first name, last name, password, and a key value. So they should match up. If there's a password, then there's going to be 4. If there's not, then there's going to... Oh, we misspelled first name. That just might be the problem. Alright, so let's refresh our page. Let's clear our network here, and let's do an update. Well, the page refreshed, so that's promising. Let's try to do an update here. Let's update our email, our first name, and our last name, and hit update. Refresh a few times, make sure it's loading correctly. Yep, it's loading our email, first name, last name from the session. We can go to the home page. Yep, logged in as tester. I am no longer test. And the My Account page displays my updates. And that is how you update a user's account information using PHP, MySQL, HTML, CSS, and jQuery. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see implemented next. Remember, easy code is, and I'll catch you later.